111:32, right, Prabhuji?
Yes,
Just to confirm. Yes, sir. Am I good to start, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, you can start. That I said.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, verse number 32. Tamatmajir antaratmanam Dhuranta bhava pratibhipatim Nirudhamapi aswadam netroyar Vilajatin Bhruguvar Vaikalavat. Sorry for not being able to recite. We'll go. We'll read word to word translation. Tam, him, the Lord, Atmajai, by the sons, Drishtibhi, by the sight, Antaratmana, the innermost part of the heart, Duranta Bhava, insuperable ecstasy, Parire Bhiri, embraced, Patim, husband, Niruddham, choked up, Api, in spite of, Ashravat, tears, Ambu, like drops of water, Netrayo, from the eyes, Vilajatitinam, of those situated in shyness, Bhriguvarya, O chief of the Bhrigus, Vaikalavat, inadvertently. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This one. The insuperable ecstasy was so strong that the queens who were shy first embraced the Lord in the innermost recess of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually, and then they sent their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But, O chief among the Bhrigus, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Although, due to feminine shyness, there were many hindrances to embracing the dear husband, Lord Sri Krishna. The queens performed the act by seeing him, by putting him in the core of their hearts, and by sending their sons to embrace him. Still, the act remained unfinished, and the tears rolled down their cheeks despite all endeavors to check them. One indirectly embraces the husband by sending the son to embrace him, because the son is a developed part of the mother's body. The embrace of the son is not exactly the embrace of husband and wife from the sexual point of view, but the embrace is satisfaction from the affectionate point of view. The embrace of the eyes is more effective in the conjugal relation, and thus, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, there is nothing wrong in such an exchange of feelings between husband and wife. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Advaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tata Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Brunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskaratya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamati Nastapayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Visayaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So before I try to speak a few words on this verse, I'd like to seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. As I was trying to think about, as I was meditating to speak about this, I was looking for some lectures on this particular verse. I happened to run into a lecture by His Grace Purujana Prabhu. So it was very sweet lecture. He gave it in Melbourne, Australia, and he was very beautifully talking on this verse. So I'll try to point out a few points from there, and then I'll also point out a few points, some of my own realizations in the recent past that I had. Okay. Purujana Prabhu says one nice, very nice statement in this that really struck my heart here. The way he describes this verse, and he didn't spend a whole lot of time describing the verse itself, but he gives a context to this one. He very nicely explains. What he says is, these are the ecstatic feelings experienced in a transcendental body. So every word here is very critical. One more thing, I want to put a word of caution here. As I speak this verse, I think, I'll try my best to convey the message that I heard either from Purujana Prabhu or my own realizations, but I would say maybe only 10% of you might get it. The reason why I'm laughing is the last time I said the same statement, I was able to get the attention of the audience. So I will see how many people will get what I'm trying to convey today. Hopefully with that plug-in, right? So the one statement that Purujana Prabhu said that really struck me is, what he said is, these are the descriptions of the undescribable. So it's very interesting, right? Here, I'll try to make this session interactive, at least by asking 2 or 3 questions. Not a whole lot of a discussion, but that will help me move forward. So anybody remembers who is narrating this verse or who is saying this verse here? Exactly. We saw so much conversations happening until now, right? Who exactly is saying this verse right now? Hare Krishna, is everybody there? Can you hear me?
If I'm not wrong.
Can you repeat, Mataji?
Narada Muni?
No, Mataji. There's a hint here. Here. Should I reveal the answer?
Hare Krishna,
Prabhu.
Go ahead.
Sutta Goswami.
Yes, Mataji. Sutta Goswami is narrating to the sages of Naimisharya. Bhruguvarya means, it is Shaunaka, right? He's narrating it to Shaunaka, yes. So often I think we can, as we are reading, because we are reading only one verse a day, it becomes hard for us to remember the context. So in this case, yes, it was Sutta Goswami who's speaking this verse, right? And he is trying to explain the ecstatic feelings that is being experienced by the queens of Dwaraka, right? And queens of Dwaraka are the eternal consorts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, So they are not human like us, they are in a transcendental body. And Gurujan Prabhu was nicely explaining that the feeling here, Sutta Goswami is trying to explain, he's trying to put in words, which is very impossible. To put feelings in words is it's highly impossible, right? If you try to describe the feelings, maximum that you can express is maybe 5% or 10%. It's just like, if you were to explain the taste of honey for somebody who has never tasted honey, it's going to be impossible. You can give a comparison, you can give some context, because the recipient or the other person has never experienced it. So there's no way you can help them understand the feeling of a person. And now it's not even, and these personalities, the queens of Dwaraka, are not human like us, right? They're in the transcendental body. They're in beyond this material world. They're beyond these dualities. Not only these dualities, they're in pure love, in pure 100% pure love with Krishna. So here Sutta Goswami is trying to explain the feelings of the queens, and he's trying to give some form of synonyms that are relevant to this material world. So each one of us should understand that, this is the message that's being trying to convey to us. And how do we try to understand it? It's going to be impossible for us to understand. So if we approach this verse in that mood, that, there is some information that the sages are trying to pass to us, and they're trying to put in words, and they're trying to describe something to us that we have never experienced. So the hope here is, because we have never experienced and they're trying their best to give us that experience, we should put our endeavor to get that form of experience, right? At least create some form of desire, a small desire to have that experience. So that is the whole, I would say, essence of this verse in description of the feelings, right? So let us take a few of those feelings in comparison to what is in this material world, right? The first thing, what did they do, right? As soon as they saw Krishna, they were separated from Krishna for a long time, right? For example, I work as a manager, for a consulting firm, and we have a lot of consultants who have to travel for work, right? And then periodically, meaning pretty much every week or every other week, we run reports to find out how long a person has been traveling. How many times they traveled last month? How long they've been away from home? Just to ensure that they have a good work-life balance, right? Because they should not feel so much separation from their family, from their loved ones. In that way, they will feel that this work has become a burden, right? And this is again a mundane example, right? Now, Krishna hasn't gone away for a day. Krishna hasn't gone away for a week. He hasn't gone away for a month. He's gone away for a long time. And all along, the queens of Dwaraka, the sons of Krishna, they were eagerly waiting for Krishna to come back, right? And then as soon as Krishna arrived back, they had, all these emotions of separation are culminating in in sambhoga, or in feelings of unity or union, that Krishna has come back, right? So now when Krishna came back, right, and you can see something happening here, and there's a very subtle point. We'll be changing topics here, so please pay some attention. So how did they embrace, how did they welcome Krishna into their house, into the palace, right? So the queens, openly they cannot express their feelings, right? So first what they did is they embraced him visually. That means to their heart's content, they looked at Krishna using their eyes, right? They looked at Krishna and took his darshan, and they completely embraced him through through their eyes. And then they embraced him in their hearts. And then finally they send their sons to embrace Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada is very nicely explaining the purport like it is an extension. It's a form of physical embrace, but not necessarily embracing physically again, right? So that's a nice description, the closest description that we can give, right? Now, we'll be totally shifting the topic here. It will go back to the topic of deep state that I was talking with, and that I asked Lingaraj Prabhu to put a title. Now, second question that I want to ask is, why did the queens of Dwarka not embrace Krishna? If they had so much separation and they have seen Krishna, why they did not embrace him physically? That's a question if anybody wants to answer.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is
Yes.
Mahabod Essences, Shishla Prabhupada and Guru and Guranga.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
I think they didn't physically embrace because of out of respect for other people and queens. This is just a pure guess. I don't know if that's the reason, but this is what I would think, out of respect for others.
Yes, that's a very good point, and that's been conveyed by Sutta Goswami here, right? It's it is vilajjitam, right? Lajja is the word. Lajja means shyness. There's another word for lajja also, which is shame also, but in this case, vilajjitam. Yes, perfect, Mataji. But and this is totally an extract from Gurujan Prabhu. But there is one more higher reason why they did not embrace them physically. Anybody wants to take a guess? Okay, I'll give the answer because I got the answer from someone. So the reason Gurujan Prabhu was saying is, he said is, yes, shyness, respect, out of maybe etiquette, those are in the material world. But material world also is also a reflection, meaning, if anything is in this material world, it is because it exists in the spiritual world. So these feelings also exist in the spiritual world. But even more higher principle is, they did not embrace, or the way that the queens of Dwarka reciprocated with Krishna, they did it in this way is because this is what Krishna likes. That is a subtle principle I wanted to talk about, right? This is what Krishna likes, and that's why they did it. Now, if one may ask a question, why does Krishna like this? There is no answer to that. It's just that Krishna likes. And the queens of Dwarka are in union with, or they do exactly what Krishna likes. That's it, nothing else. There is no reasons why they want to find out why Krishna likes this or whatnot, right? Krishna likes it, and that's it. So that is a subtle point I want to highlight in today's topic, right? The queens of Dwaraka reciprocate with Krishna's likings. That's it. Now I'll change topics here, right? That means in this material world, right, we often want to do, or we are in the perverted reflection, right? In this material world, a conditioned living entity, he wants to do whatever he likes to do, versus the activities in the spiritual world are whatever Krishna likes to do. So in this material world, one may, for anybody who hears this topic, right, if I, I should be doing or the only thing that I should be doing is whatever Krishna likes. It can sound very, very hard and harsh, or even shocking, right? And most of us in Krishna consciousness, so it may not feel that so strange. But if this was the first time we are hearing about this, or first in our early days when we came to Krishna consciousness, if we heard this statement that we are not supposed to do anything else, we are supposed to be doing only that whatever whatever Krishna likes, it would give a shocking feeling. Now, where does that arise, right? If we think, okay, this is my first day in Krishna consciousness, and I heard this statement, and all of a sudden I'm getting this strange feelings when I heard this statement. Where are they arising from? Anybody wants to take a guess? Where are these feelings arising? Like this feeling of, oh my God, this is like dictatorship, or maybe this is more like a tyrant or something like that. Where do you think those feelings are arising from? When we hear that everything that we should be doing, irrespective of what our feelings are, we should be doing things that Krishna likes. Where do those feelings arise from?
It's coming from enviousness, Prabhuji.
Enviousness, that is, but there is something a little more higher level. Yes, very true, Mataji. Enviousness. I want you to take one step further. Where?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, false ego?
Yes. The false ego, right? Because when we think that we are independent of Krishna, that's when we want to do whatever we want. But if we know our true ego, meaning, again, it will go back to my previous class of meaning our Sanatana Dharma, Jivere Swarupohai Krishnera Nitya Das. When we have that identity that I am part and parcel of Krishna and my eternal position is service to Krishna, then there is no ill feeling at all in accepting to the likes of Krishna. Though this is very, very basic, it's and we may theoretically understand it, it's a big journey for us to get to that state of understanding what our Sanatana Dharma is. And this journey is not an easy journey, because false ego, and we've been conditioned by this false ego for millions and millions of lifetimes. And Krishna himself says, right, there is different degrees of this false ego or lust. He talks about different degrees of lust in Bhagavad Gita. But in essence, lust is a reflection of false ego again, right? He talks about how fire is covered by smoke, a mirror is covered by dust, or an embryo is covered by the womb. Different levels, right? Now, how do we get to that state? We understand theoretically, yes, I have this false ego, I have this wrong identity. At the same time, I have this conditioning. How do I get to that state? That is the process of bhakti, right? And that is goes back to the concept of I was talking about the difference between Sanatana Dharma and Varnashrama Dharma. In between is Daivi Varnashrama Dharma, which is while we are performing in our conditioned state by acting in Varnashrama Dharma, meaning in the body that we have taken, in the limitations of the body that we are given, may it be male, female, may it be Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Brahmana, or maybe an ashram, brahmachari, vanaprastha, grahastha, or sannyas. When we engage in the service of the Supreme Lord, the Daivi Varnashram Dharma, this false ego or this ill feelings that we get when we hear that we have to ordain to the feelings of Krishna, that will slowly dissipate. In this context, I want to talk about deep state. Okay. Anybody heard this word called deep state? This really struck me recently because I heard this statement called deep state. Anybody has any idea what is the meaning of deep state? Or I will give a statement, the United States of America is a deep state country. What does that mean?
Religious?
No, Mataji. Okay. So this has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with politics. I will take you in that direction just to give a correlation, an example, right? So, most of us have come to America, right? We understand how this country operates, right? There is a lot of freedom available in this country. Right to speech, right to practice religion. There is so much freedom in this country, right? And we also see, just like that, there's a right to vote. You can elect an official and whatnot, right? And you also see that America has a lot of principles established, which is much better than many other countries. Meaning, they want to give equal rights to everyone. They're pro-democracy. They want to ensure peace in the world, right, by mediating between countries and whatnot, right? So there are so many things that they do. Now, for example, if you take the relationship with sorry, I'm taking into politics, but there's a very subtle point I want to give, and then I'll make it connect that connection to our Krishna consciousness, right? So, when America negotiates with other countries, you will see in the news a lot of time, America is saying, we want India to sign the nuclear proliferation treaty agreement. Or there is the Security Council that is established in the UN, and not everybody is part of it. Certain countries are part of it and whatnot. And America always proposes certain resolutions that are good for the whole world. But and you will see also, right, whenever there's a new government, if Democrats come, they operate in one way. If Republicans come, they operate in one way. And there are so many things that happen, right? But however, if you are truly into politics, I'm not into politics, but this is something that I recently heard, is America is called a deep state country because underlying all this surface, down underneath, the first thing that they put ahead is what is good for the country of United States of America. They never compromise on that one principle. What is good for the United States of America? And on top of it, you may do other things. Sometimes the Democrats may come, it may be the craziest president, or a totally left wing or right wing. They may be whatever on the surface level. But the way the government is structured, is underneath the priorities of the country are never compromised, irrespective of who the leader at that time is. It may be Republican, it may be Democrat, it may be a crisis in the country or whatnot, but the underneath principle or the priorities of the country never change. They are always ensured that they are in place. That's why America is called a deep state country. So whenever some countries deal with America, they are very cautious. Yes, America is presenting us a very nice principle, but is there a reason behind it? They're always looking inside, trying to figure out what is underlying reason for any policy that is coming out. So similarly, for us, and if you make this correlation to the Ramananda Samvad, Ramananda Rai, the conversation between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you will see some relationship. The reason I made this statement is I wanted to get your attention, because most of us heard Ramananda, the conversation between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the reason I give this political agenda is to get your attention. So the idea here is, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks Ramananda Rai, what is the highest? He goes many levels. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. And finally, when he reaches Gopi Padakamalaya Dasa 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 Anudas, that's when he stops and says, this is what it is. So why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say that's okay? He could have rejected it, right? He could have said, no, this is not right. He says that's okay. So we will see that most of us who are in the conditioned state are operating at different principles, right? Okay, what is good for my family? Okay, I have children. What is good for my children? I have a job that I have to perform. What is good for my job? I have, and going further, I have a role to play in the temple. Okay, what is good for my role in performing that service at the temple, right? Yes, there are so many higher principles that we operate upon on a daily basis, but deep in the deep state of our heart, we should always remember this one principle. What is the best benefit for me? Like how America thinks, what is the benefits for this country? What is the best benefit for me is, irrespective of the role, I may be performing excellent services. I may be performing my role of, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or, Vanaprastha, Grahastha, Sannyas, or Brahmachari. But underlying principle deep within is Jivera Swarupuhai Krishnera Nityadhas. That's it. I am the eternal servant of Krishna, and my eternal constitutional position is service unto him. When we remember that deep state principle, even if some turbulence occurs on the top level, for example, there's a challenge at the job, I may lose my job or I may not have an income. That's fine. It's a phase in life. My children, I'm struggling with my children, or I'm doing a great job with my children. That's fine. I'm performing services. I lost this service because of something. That's fine. No matter what happens on the surface, yes, those actions on the surface can contribute to the deep state of it. But if something turbulent happens on the top, it doesn't really matter. Because we need to know that irrespective of what I am thinking in my mind, or what other people are thinking in their mind, or what is happening in this world, the 3 points I want to point out. This actually comes from astrology. What they say is, they place different planets in astrology, right? There are 3 aspects that are very important in astrology. What they say is, one portrays how does the world look at you. When based on the time, birth, and circumstances, there is a certain way the world looks at you. And then there's the other thing. What do you think how the world is looking at you? And the third thing is how the world reacts with you. I call it the interview with the world. Because, I conduct interviews, right? As part of my job. When a candidate is walking into the door, the interviewer gets the first impression of the person. Even before the person walks into the door, you say, okay, as soon as you look at the person, you look at the resume, you take a little bit of information. If there is, say, 1 terabyte of data, you look at 1 byte of data and you form an impression within yourself. So that is basically the world's perception of you. The candidate who's walking into the interview, he thinks, okay, this is how I'm going to portray myself. This is how I'm going to project. This is who I am, right? You say, I'm the best programmer, I am the best manager, or I am the best something. And I have to convey all these details to the other person. So this is what I think I am. The whole world is running just on these 2 principles. This is what the world, this is how the world sees you, and this is how I want to portray myself in this world. But again, this is at the surface level. So what I'm trying to say is the turbulence and everything is caused by our own conceptions. If the world may reject you, that's still fine. But underneath in the deep state, you are Jivera Swarupuhai Krishnera Nityadhas. Even if the world rejects you. On the flip side, no matter who you think you are, you may think you are the Prime Minister of this country, or you may think you are a great Bhagavatam speaker or whatnot. It doesn't matter. Underneath, there's only one thing. Jivera Swarupuhai Krishnera Nityadhas. You are eternal servant of Krishna, no matter who you think you are. That is the deep state consciousness that each one of us should attain. And that is our process, right? The process of sadhana bhakti is to practice the principles of Krishna consciousness, or practice devotional service, so that we can go to the deep state of Krishna consciousness, which is I am an eternal part and parcel of Krishna, and I am his eternal servant. And then a whole new world opens up to us. Once we realize, yes, my only activity is to do what is pleasing to Krishna, like the queens of Dwaraka are doing here. And then we are taken to a totally different platform where Sutta Goswami is trying to describe the undescribable feelings that are being experienced by the queens of Dwaraka. Okay. Yeah, this is what I want to say. In conclusion, I think each one of us is striving hard to attain that state. I spoke something from what Purijan Prabhu explained and some of my recent realizations. Yeah, this is where I would like to stop. Anybody has any comments or questions, we can take. All right, if there's no questions or comments, I think we'll end it here. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Wish you all a happy Dwadasi and a happy Krishna Conscious Day.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, I had one very insignificant point, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji, please share.
That is when Sutta Goswami narrates to Shaunaka Rishi, he's just, what to say, he has it all memorized, so he is going to exactly repeat what Shukadev Goswami said to King Parishit, right? Like we have the Bhagavad Gita conversation. Sanjaya is telling exactly what transpired between Arjuna and Sri Krishna. Like yes, that. So like that, I was surprised that there is this Sutta Goswami addressing Shaunaka Rishi in this verse. I thought it would be like directly coming from Shukadev Goswami.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Mataji, but I think the point that I can think of is not a radio, right? We can see that it is a conversation here, right? There is questions being asked and questions being answered. I don't know if somebody else can comment here. Honestly, I haven't studied thoroughly. Anybody who wants to answer that question?
Because I kind of thought it will be, I mean, there is a Shaunaka Rishi asking questions, and then, but then Sutta Goswami is saying, I'm going to tell you what went on there. So I thought it will all come as, directly from Shukadev Goswami to King Parishit. In between, I didn't expect a kind of, in this verse especially, this is, I mean, I was kind of a little bit, not able to kind of understand. Yes, that's a very insignificant point, I guess,
You should ask Maharaj,
But thank you very much, Prabhu, for your class. It's very wonderful. Deep down is that one line. Very
yes,
thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
All right, we can end it here. Lingaraj Prabhu.
Okay.
Thanks, Prabhuji.